Hey y'all, you know what time it is? Woo! Get into it! Get into it! Yes! We are back with story time with Chris. That's all I have for you. Maybe I'll make a theme song one day. Shout out to all of my musical producers and artist friends that are both local and far distant. Message me, please. Hi, y'all. We are back with Storytime. Oh! A friend has messaged me. But I'll get back to them momentarily. Hi, y'all. Welcome to Storytime. Of course, as you always know, you're more than welcome to watch these videos in your spare time, downtime, nap time, work time, in between time, sleep time, chill time, whatever time that you find time to hear a highly animated voice who will bring you wonderful, magical, fantastical, and inspiring stories from all over the gambit. But what I was gonna say was, excuse me. I was in the midst of trying to say something, and I lost my breath. But hold on one second, because I want to show y'all something. Hold on. And no, I do not own the music that you were listening to in the background. Alright. Okay, so I wanted to show, and I've been holding these for a while, but I've been wanting to show some new additions to the collection. Did I put them over here? I don't think I did. Hold on. Okay. Hold on, y'all. One sec. So I'm gonna make a proper announcement later on, but I wanted to show you all a couple of things. So, as you all no doubt know, Storytime is Monday through Thursday, and we're gonna keep it on that schedule. Monday, Wednesday is gonna be Facebook's reading, and then Tuesday, Thursday is going to be Instagram's reading. So I say all that to say that I'm more than likely going to add a weekend segment. I do work a lot. My hours, typically I'm at work for about 8 to 10 hours a day, on the weekends especially. So I wanted to find a little bit of spare time to read shorter stories to an effect. We still need to finish the True Story of Aladdin, which I have not forgotten about that. I still have my bookmark saved in that book, which is right behind me, which is right here. Oh no. Goodness. Oh. I have way too many books. Sorry. I mean, you can never have too many books, but still. Alright, hold on. There we go. Alright. Okay, so I think you've all seen this one. This is a new addition to the collection. It's the full collection of Japanese folklore and fairy tales, myths, and legends. Then we have a collection of African folklore, myths, and legends. Most of these in this book I do know from just childhood being read to me, but there are a couple in here that are very brand new that I definitely want to get into. And then, of course, we have selected readings of Aladdin and other stories from 1001 Arabian Nights, which I want to get to reading about Sinbad, because Sinbad is super cool. Sinbad is, let me give a good example. Sinbad predates Tarzan, predates Mowgli, predates Superman even. So I would say that Sinbad is the Arabian equivalent of Robin Hood, if that makes sense. Like, he is a vigilante figure, but he does a lot of good wherever he goes. Then I got this, which is Nordic tales. Nordic coming from the word Norse or Norwegian, the country of Norway, which has their own collection of fairy tales, one of which is called East of the Sun, West of the Moon. It's one of my favorite fairy tales of all time. I'm really surprised Disney has not yet adapted that story for a film, but it is very suspiciously close to the telling of Beauty and the Beast, but it's distinctive enough to be its own thing. It is a tale of that variety, but it's distinctive. We'll get to it. And then, for my 90s and 80s kids, guess what I found at the store a couple of months back? So this is a storybook adaptation of The Dark Crystal, which, to those who've seen the movie, you had an awesome childhood. You had an awesome childhood. For those who have not, you still have time to watch it. So, I'm going to have a weekend segment where I choose a short story. Whereas The Dark Crystal is a different thing. I'll have to have a whole night dedicated to that. It probably would take nothing more than an hour to read the entire thing because it's set up in like mini chapters. But for the actual fairy tales and myths, I will pick one at random. And I will read one to you all and make sure it gets uploaded to the channel. If you have any, I'll make sure to post them later. But if you have a specific volume that you want me to start with, which, like I said, we still have to finish the True Story of Aladdin, but we have other stories in that book that we can read. We have the African myths, Japanese myths, and Nordic tales. And then I am going to invest in a Greek and Norse mythological anthology of stories. So that is going to be a weekend segment that's going to start next week. So I will make sure to do an ample post about that to get people eyes and ears on that. That more than likely will happen here on Facebook. It'll more than likely happen on Facebook. It's a bit easier. But we didn't come here to hear me blab the entire time. Actually, as I was thinking about East of the Sun, West of the Moon, one of my favorite episodes of The Muppet Show from back in the day was when Christopher Reeves, God rest his beautiful soul, was a guest star. Christopher Reeves was like the major film actor who portrayed the role of Superman. I love Christopher Reeves. He is and was one of my biggest role models. A huge philanthropist, a wonderful spirit, and truly exemplified what it means to be a hero in all aspects of life. Shout out to Christopher Reeves. But he was on an episode of The Muppet Show where he sang a song called East of the Sun and West of the Moon with Miss Piggy. So if anybody remembers that episode, comment below. Let me know. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, which The Muppet Show is all on Disney+, they really need to bring that show back. I miss that type of entertainment when it comes to the Muppets, and I adore them. So, Jim Henson also. Fun fact: so I showed you The Dark Crystal. The same person who made the Muppets and Sesame Street is the creator of The Dark Crystal. He's the director and creator of The Dark Crystal. Also, he created a show called Fraggle Rock. Shout out to my 80s and 90s kids that remember that show, which has since been rebooted on Apple TV, if I'm not mistaken. But, yes. No more shameless plugging. We're going to switch up the music just a tad. So I hope everybody is having a really, really good day. And don't worry, y'all, I'm getting my hair done on Friday, okay? To all my friends, okay? I am getting my hair retwisted. It's gonna happen. And honestly, this is my natural hair. This is how it naturally grows as time goes on. And I still look quite beautiful. Children, don't ever let anybody try to dissuade you from wearing the natural beauty that you already have. You can enhance it naturally. You can glamorize it. You can stylize it. Throw some swag on it. But your natural beauty and your natural gifts are yours and yours alone. And nobody could ever replicate or diminish what you know yourself to be. So don't let anybody do that to you, okay? Chapter 15, sorry. Chapter 15, King Idaleg. Down he spun, battling for air, in a flood that broke upon him like a crumbling mountain. Faster and faster, the waters bore him along, tossing him right and left. Taran collided with something. What it was, he could not tell. But he clung to it even as his strength failed him. There was a crash, as though the earth had split asunder. The water turned to foam, and Taran felt himself dashed against an unyielding wall. He remembered nothing more. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on a hard, smooth surface, his hand tightly gripping Fluter's harp. He heard the rush of water close by. Cautiously, he felt around him. His fingers touched only wet, flat stone, an embankment of some kind. A pale blue light shone high above him. Taran decided he had come to rest in a cave or a grotto. He raised himself, and his movements set the harp to jangling. "Hello, who's that?" a voice echoed down the embankment. Faint though it was, Taran recognized it belonging to the bard. He scrambled to his feet and crept in the direction of the sound. On the way, he tripped over a form which became suddenly vocal and indignant. "You've done very well, Taran of Caer Dallben. With all your shortcuts, what's left of me is soaked to the skin, and I can't find my bubble. Oh, here it is. All wet, of course. And who knows what's happened to the rest of us?" The golden light flamed dimly to reveal the dripping face of Eilonwy, her blue eyes flashing with vexation. Vexation is a word that basically means frustration, agitation, annoyance. Vexation, or I am vexed, or someone is vexing me, or this has... I'm trying to find another way you could use that. His action is a vex upon my life. There we go. That's a way you could also use that. Because you can also use vex as a noun, as an adjective. Yeah, the more you know. Gurgi's hair, sputtering shadow, rolled toward them. "Oh, poor tender head is filled with slashings and washings." In another moment, Fluter had found them. Mellingar whinnied behind him. "I thought I heard my harp down here," he said. "I couldn't believe it at first. Never expected to see it again, but a flam never despairs. Quite a stroke of luck, though." "I never thought I'd see anything again," Taran said, handing the instrument to Fluter. "Excuse me. We've been washed into a cave of some kind, but it's not a natural one. Look at these flagstones." "If you look at Mellingar," Eilonwy called, "you'll see all our provisions are gone. All our weapons, too, thanks to your precious shortcut." It was true. The straps had broken loose and the saddle had torn away in the whirlpool. Luckily, the companions still had their swords. "I'm sorry," Taran said. "I admit we are here through my fault. I should have followed this path, but what's done is done. I led us here, and I'll find a way out." He glanced around. The roar of water came from a wide, swift-running canal. The embankment itself was much broader than he had realized. Lights of various colors glowed in the high arches. He turned to his companions again. "This is very curious. We seem to be deep underground, but it isn't the lake bottom." Before he could utter another word, he was seized from behind. A bag smelling strong of onions was jabbed over his head. Eilonwy screamed. Then her voice grew muffled. Taran was being half pushed, half pulled in two directions at once. Gurgi began yelping furiously. "Get that one! Here!" a gruff voice shouted. "Get him yourself! Can't you see I've got my hands full?" Taran struck out. A solid round ball that must have been someone's head butted him in the stomach. There were slapping noises filtering through the oniony darkness around him. Those would be from Eilonwy. Now he was pushed from behind, propelled at top speed, while angry voices shouted at him and each other. "Hustle along there! You fool, you didn't take their swords!" At this came another shriek from Eilonwy, the sound of what might have been a kick, then a moment of silence. "All right, let them keep their swords. You will have the blame of it, letting them approach King Eidoled with weapons." At a blind trot, Taran was shoved through what seemed a large crowd of people. Everyone was talking at once. The noise was deafening. After a number of turns, he was thrust forward again. A heavy door snapped behind him. The onion bag was snatched from his head. Taran blinked. With Fluder and Eilonwy stood at the center of a high-vaulted chamber glittering with lights. Gurgi was nowhere in sight. Their captors were half a dozen squat, round, stubby-legged warriors. Axes hung from their belts, and each man had a bow and a quiver of arrows on his shoulder. The left eye of the short, burly fellow who stood beside Eilonwy was turning greenish-black. Before them at a long stone table, a dwarfish figure with a bristling yellow beard glared at the warriors. He wore a robe of garnish red and green. Rings sparkled on his plump fingers. "What's this?" he shouted. "Who are these people? Didn't I give orders I wasn't to be disturbed?" "But Majesty," began one of the warriors, shifting uneasily, "we caught them." "Must you bother me with details?" King Eidoled cried, clasping his forehead. "You'll ruin me! You'll be the death of me! Out! Out! No, not the prisoners, you idiots!" Shaking his head, sighing and sputtering. The king collapsed onto a throne carved from rock. The guards scurried away. King Eidoled shot a furious glance at Taran and his companions. "Now then, out with it! What do you want? You might as well know ahead of time you shan't have it." "Sire," Taran began, "we ask no more than safe passage through your realm. The four of us—" "There's only 3 of you!" King Eidoled snapped. "Can't you count?" "One of my companions is missing," Taran said regretfully. He had hoped Gurgi would have overcome his fear, but he could not blame the creature for running off after his ordeal in the whirlpool. "I beg your servants to help us find him. Then, too, our provisions and weapons have been lost." "That's clouded nonsense!" shouted the king. "Don't lie to me! I can't stand it." He pulled an orange kerchief from his sleeve and mopped his forehead. Reminds me a lot of the mayor from Nightmare Before Christmas from Halloween Town, like, "Jack, I'm only an elected official. I can't do this by myself." "Why did you come here?" "Because an assistant pigkeeper led us on a wild goose chase," Eilonwy interrupted. "We don't even know where we are, let alone why. It's worse than rolling downhill in the dark." "Naturally," said Eidoled, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You have no idea you're in the very heart of the kingdom of Twilworth. Talwith. There we go. Talwith. Talwith Teg. The fair folk. The happy family. The little people. Or whatever other insipid, irritating names you've put on us." "Oh, no, of course not. You just happen to pass by." Hold on one moment. Derek. So silly. I love you so much. Oh my gosh. Bender. Oh my goodness. Inside joke amongst me and my dear friend, but it happens. Anyway, where were we? Ah! "We were caught in the lake," Taran protested. "It pulled us down." "Good, eh?" King Eidoled answered with a quirk smile of pride. "I've added some improvements of mine, of course." "If you're so anxious to keep visitors away," Eilonwy said, "you should have something better to make people stay out." "When people get this close," Eidoled answered, "they're already too close. At that point, I don't want them out. I want them in." Fluder shook his head. "I always understood the fair folk were all over Prydain, not just here." Of course not just here, said Idleleg with impatience. This is the royal seat. Why, we have tunnels and mines every place you can imagine. But the real work, the real labor of organization, is here. Right here, in this very spot, in this very throne room. On my shoulders. It's too much, I tell you, too much. But who else can you trust? If you want something done right... The king stopped suddenly and drummed his glittering fingers on the stone table. That's not your affair, he said. You're in trouble enough as it is. It can't be overlooked. I don't see any work being done, said Eilonwy. Before Taran could warn Eilonwy not to be imprudent, the door of the throne room burst open and a crowd of folk pressed in, looking closer. Taran saw not all were dwarves. Some were tall, slender, with white robes. Others were covered with glittering scales like fish. Still others fluttered large, delicate wings. For some moments Taran heard nothing but a confusion of voices, angry outcries and bickering, with Idleleg trying to shout above them. Finally, the king managed to push them all out again. No work being done, he cried. You don't appreciate everything that goes into it. The children of evening, that's another ridiculous name you humans have thought up, are to sing in the forest of Cantriv Mar tonight. They haven't even practiced. 2 are sick and 1 can't be found. The lake sprites have been quarreling all day. Now they're sulking. Their hair's a mess, and who does that reflect on? Who has to jolly them along, coax them, plead with them? The answer is obvious. What thanks do I get? King Idleleg ranted on. Not at all. Has any of you long-legged gawks even taken the trouble, even once, mind you, to offer the simplest expression of gratitude, such as, thank you, King Idleleg, for the tremendous effort and inconvenience you've gone to, so that we can enjoy a little charm and beauty in the world above, which would be so unspeakably grim without you and your fair folk. Just a few words of honest appreciation. By no means, just the opposite. If any of you thick-skulled oafs came on one of the fair folk above ground, what happens? You seize him, you grab him with your great hammery hands, and try to make him lead you to buried treasure. Or you squeeze him until you get 3 wishes out of him, not satisfied with 1. Oh no, but 3! Well, I don't mind telling you this, Idleleg went on, his face turning redder at the moment. I've put an end to all this wish-granting and treasure scavenging. No more! Absolutely not! I'm surprised that you didn't ruin us long ago. Just then a chorus of voices rose from behind the door of Idleleg's throne room. The harmonies penetrated even the walls of heavy stone. Taran had never in his life heard such beautiful singing. He listened, enchanted, forgetting, for the moment, all but the soaring melody. Idleleg himself stopped shouting and puffing until the voices died away. There's something to be thankful for, the king said at last. The children of evening have evidently got together again. Not as good as you might want, but they'll manage somehow. I've not heard the songs of the fair folk until now, Taran said. I never realized how lovely they were. Don't try to flatter me, Idleleg cried, tried to look furious, yet beaming at the same time. What surprises me, Eilonwy said, while the bard plucked meditatively at his harp, tried to recapture the notes of the song, is why you go to so much trouble. If you fair folk dislike all of us above ground, why do you bother? Professional pride, my dear girl, said the dwarf king, putting a chubby hand to his heart and bowing slightly. When we fair folk do something, we do it right. Oh, yes, he sighed. Never mind the sacrifices we make. It's a task that needs doing, and so we do it. Never mind the cost. For example, he added with a wave of his hand, it doesn't matter, I've lost sleep, I've lost weight, but that's not important. King Idleleg had lost weight, Taran thought to himself. What must he have been like beforehand? That was shady. That was a shady comment from Taran. He decided against asking this question, which is always good, kids. It's never okay to ask rude questions like that. Just saying. Well, I appreciate it, Eilonwy said. I think it's amazing what you've been able to do. You must be extremely clever, and any assistant pig keepers who happen to be in this throne room might do well to pay attention. Thank you, dear girl, said King Adelaide, bowing lower. I see you're the sort of person one can talk to intelligently. It's unheard of one of you being shambling louts to have any kind of insight into these matters, but you at least seem to understand the problems we face. Sire, interrupted Tarn, we understand your time is precious. Let us disturb you no more. Give us safe conduct to Cardathel. What? Shouted Idleleg. Leave here? Impossible! Unheard of! Once you're with the fair folk, my good lad, you stay, and no mistake about it. Oh, I suppose I could stretch a point for the sake of the young lady and let you off easily. Only put you to sleep for 50 years or turn you on to bats. But that would be a pure favor, mind you. Our task is urgent, Tarn cried. Even now we've delayed too long. That's your concern, not mine, Idleleg shrugged. Then we shall make our own way, Tarn shouted, drawing his sword. Fluda's blade leapt out and the bard stood with Tarn, ready to fight. More clouded nonsense, King Idleleg said, looking contemptuously at the swords pointed toward him. He shook his fingers at them. There and there, now you might try to move your arms. Tarn strained every muscle. His body felt turned to stone. Put your swords away and let's talk this over calmly, said the dwarf king, gesturing again. If you give me any decent reason why I should let you go, I might think it over and answer you promptly, say in a year or two. There could be no use. Tarn saw concealing the reasons for his journey. He explained to Idleleg what had befallen them. The dwarf king ceased his blustering at the mention of Arorn, but when Tarn had finished, King Idleleg shook his head. This is a conflict you great gawks must attend to yourselves. The fair folk owe you no allegiance, he said angrily. Predane belonged to us before the race of men came. You drove us underground. You plundered our mines. You plundered clodpoles. You stole our treasures, and you keep stealing them, you clumsy oafs. Sire, Tarn answered, I can speak for no man but myself. I've never robbed you, and I've no wish to. My task means more to me than your treasures. If there is ill will between the fair folk and the race of men, then it is a matter to be settled between them. But if the horned king triumphs, if the shadow of Anuvan passes and falls on the land above you, Arorn's hand will reach your deepest caverns. For an assistant peakeeper, said Idleleg, you're reasonably eloquent, but the fair folk will worry about Arorn when the time comes. The time has come, Tard said. I only hope it is not past. I don't think you really know what's going on above ground. You talk about charm and beauty, and sacrificing yourself to make things pleasant for people, said Ilanwe. I don't believe you care a bit for that. You're too conceited and stubborn and selfish. Conceited? Shouted Idleleg, his eyes popping. Selfish? You won't find anyone more open-hearted and generous. How dare you say that? What do you want, my life's blood? With that, he tore off his cloak and threw it in the air, pulled the rings from his fingers, and tossed them in every direction. Go ahead, take it all. Leave me ruined. What else do you want? My whole kingdom? Do you want to leave? Go, by all means. The sooner the better. Stubborn. Ha, I'm too soft. It'll be the death of me, but little you care. At that moment, the door of the throne room burst open again. 2 dwarf soldiers clung frantically to Gurgi, who swung them about as if they were rabbits. Joyous greetings! Faithful Gurgi is back with mighty heroes. This time valiant Gurgi did not run. Oh, no, no. Brave Gurgi fought with great whackings and smackings. He triumphed. But then mighty lords are carried away. Gurgi, clever Gurgi, goes seeking and peeking to save them, yes, and he finds them. But that is not all. Oh, faithful, honest, fearless Gurgi finds more surprises and delights. Oh, joy! Gurgi was so excited that he began dancing on one foot, spinning around and clapping his hands. Mighty warriors go to seek a piggy. It is clever, wise Gurgi who finds her. Henwin? Cried Tarn. Where is she? Here, mighty lord, Gurgi shouted. The piggy is here! And that is where we will end for today. As always, I really do appreciate you all watching. Like I said, you never have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your leisurely time or when they post to the YouTube channel, which, by the way, the channel is up to date. Only thing I need to do is post the recent videos of the Book of 3 and a series of unfortunate events, and we'll be completely caught up by the end of the night. So, I wish you all a good evening. Thank you all so much for your love and support. Like, share, and subscribe onto the YouTube channel, please. The link is in the bio. I love you all, and I'll see you next time.